I'm going to make you show that awesome caftan. Hi,
Oh, I
everybody.
will, yeah.
Oops. We are live on A Mighty Blaze. I'm Jenna Blum. I'm one of the co-founders of The Blaze. Welcome. If you are a repeat viewer, welcome back. If you are new to The Blaze, please know we are a team of 35 creative volunteers dedicated to linking writers and readers in the age of COVID and beyond. So if you like what you see here, give us a follow or a like on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. We are ubiquitous. We're on YouTube. We're even on freaking TikTok. We are maybe not Snapchat. And please consider signing up for our newsletter at www.amightyblaze.com so you can never have literary FOMO ever again. No mo FOMO. Nobody wants literary FOMO. So you can be kept abreast of all of our fabulous literary events like today. We have our Friday Frontliner, Steven Rowley, has joined us today. Welcome, Steven.
Hi, Jenna. It's so great to be with you.
It's so good to talk with you. We know each other from doing like these mean tweets videos where we are reading our worst reviews, and Steven's were like so funny and like so, I mean, they were all like funny because they were so awful, but you read them so beautifully. I was like, this guy should be on camera, and here you are. And so now we get to actually chat about stuff.
Here I am. Yay. Happy Friday.
The Gunkle. Guys, this book is out next week. Oh, yes.
Mine too.
Yes, yay! Oh my gosh, how does it feel to hold your new baby?
It's so great because of COVID this year. And it was so exciting for you to say in the introduction that COVID and beyond, because we're so close to picturing a world where we can almost be back out in public again, and we're sort of taking baby steps there. But my tour for this book is still virtual. It's a little early to be on a new flight every day and in bookstores and meeting people in person quite yet. So I'm so grateful you're here.
Well, I'm grateful we're here too. I'm going to read your bio also just to like embarrass you, see if I can make you blush. But I have so many questions about the tour and dishing. Guys, you should be following Steven on Facebook, on Twitter, on Insta. He has, and I told our producers this, the most beautiful Instagram feed ever. It's like this professional, like, I mean, I go there when I want to take a little vacation and remain on my couch. Like, it is gorgeous. So I have questions about this.
I have help. I'm here in Palm Springs, California. I mean, I do it all myself. I take all the photos myself, but you can't go wrong with Palm Springs, California. You have swimming pools and mountains and palm trees. It makes for a good Instagram feed.
Sweets, I could go wrong. I could be like, hi, I'm in Palm Springs. And people be like, no, we don't want to see your nose picking. Like, really go to his Instagram feed. It is a thing of beauty. But before you go to the feed, I just mentioned that because all of Steven's tour events are on his Facebook, Twitter, and Insta. So go look for that. He has a beautiful tour lined up, and you don't even have to leave your house or put on pants. So still, right, in this era. And then we can talk about in person for your paperback. But first, all right, you ready for you?
Oh yeah, I was going to say that, but because of COVID, they did not do advanced copies. This really is the first time I'm holding the book, and it does feel good. It's very exciting, and it's so beautifully colored. I love it.
I do too. It is like a popsicle of a book.
It's happy.
Right? Like every time you see this book, it makes you happy. When I was doing the like social media promo, I'm like, these colors, so happy. It just makes me want to drink a really bright drink, which I'm about to do in a few minutes. So okay, buckle up. This is you. Steven Rowley, just in case you didn't know, he, in addition to being like this lovely dude who's on our show, the author of The Gunkle, he's also the best-selling author of Lily and the Octopus, which is about a dog, yes, and was a Washington Post notable book of the year in 2016. It's also in development as a feature film for Amazon Studios, Amaze. And the editor, which I remember, did that come out also during the pandemic or a little before?
No, that was 2019. It's hard to, it was before the sickness came.
Before the plague.
Yeah.
Before the plague came to our shores. I remember the editor and just like loving it so much and like the sort of Jackie O cameos, but then it got mashed into my brain along with Pandemic. So there was like beautiful book, Pandemic. That was named by NPR and Esquire magazine as one of the best books of 2019. Duh. And was optioned by 20th Century for director Greg Berlanti. Amaze. Also, Steven's new novel, The Gunkle, arrives next week. So y'all are getting a sneak preview of this. It is out next Tuesday officially. O Magazine has hailed it as one of the LGBTQ books changing the literary landscape. Your fiction has been published in 20 languages. And you were born in Portland. I'm like, that doesn't make sense, but we'll just let that
Portland, Maine. Yeah.
Portland, Maine. And you've been a freelance writer, newspaper columnist, screenwriter, obviously, because your books have plots that move. Your dad just graduated at Emerson down the street from me. And as mentioned, you're in Palm Springs with your husband, Byron Lane, who's also a writer and just as cute as can be, I must say. Not poaching, just saying like,
he's adorable. I'm going to say after quarantining together for a year, it's been a lot of togetherness. So if you wanted to borrow him for, a week or something, I would
love to borrow him. Like
it would probably be okay.
Yeah, I would love to. And then I would like to borrow you and give him some alone time too. And we can just sort of like seesaw back and forth.
I miss Boston, actually. That's my college town. So I would love to come back and visit you.
Come back. I saw on your Instagram that there were some like really cute photos at like Copley with like these children who reminded me of the children in the Guncle. And I was like, you can come here without children even and hang out with me at Copley, and we'll just go to the farmer's market and do like a Mary Tyler Moore.
I love it.
Montage.
I love it.
Okay. So let's talk about the Guncle a little bit. Tell us in your own words what the Guncle is about.
Well, you've already peeped on my Instagram page. The number one question I get, am I the Guncle? And here I am wearing a caftan like,
that is the thing of beauty.
Yeah. Like the Guncle is fond of wearing, as you can see on the cover. So yeah, indeed. Well, I guess we should just start with, in case there's anyone who doesn't know what a Guncle is. Guncles are kind of having a moment, but it has become sort of slang for a gay uncle. And oftentimes an uncle that takes on sort of a larger than life persona in a sort of anti-mame kind of way. And I don't know why that is exactly, except that perhaps, guncles are less likely to have children of their own, although that's changing. We've often left our hometowns and have moved to bigger cities. So when we come home and visit, it feels like an event, and we have disposable income often to lavish gifts on children. So there's even, I've seen, my Guncle Loves Me onesies for babies. I've seen, World's Best Guncle mugs. And there's even a Guncle Day now, which is, I think, the second Sunday in August or something. I'll figure it out and let you know where I'm registered.
I would love that.
But I am, the Guncle to 5 kids, 2 nieces, and 3 nephews. And so the oldest of whom is 12 now. And so it was my brilliant editor, Sally Kim, who follows me on Instagram and was one day like, after I had a long visit with the kids, was like, there might be some inspiration there for your next work. So that's where sort of the idea was born. But I've always had a long fascination with anti-mame, and first the novel by Patrick Dennis, and then it was a Broadway show and a movie with Rosalind Russell, and then a Broadway musical with Angela Lansbury, and then a movie musical with Lucille Ball, and which is kind of bananas. But that whole genre, like Mary Poppins, Maria, a Singing Nun, any of these sort of magical caregivers, I've always had a long fascination with that genre. Do you have a favorite from that milieu?
Well, I have a Guncle. So
you have an actual Guncle.
I actually had a Guncle. So I was so excited about this, but I love like the heart of this to me is about the theme of like making family, right? It's like not necessarily the people you're born to, but the people who care for you and who dote upon you and come into your life at a time when you desperately need it, step in and give you their magic and their love. And they also open up avenues of behavior and exposure that you might not get in your own home. And I love this because I had a Guncle Dan, and I threw my producers some photos of him, which I think they're going to try and slide up. So like, this is my Guncle Dan in his meow, of course, which he had in like Minnesota in the winter. He was like driving around in this Miata, right, with the top down, right, exactly, being on like Baumschka, and so he was so close in our family that he actually lived with my parents while my mom was pregnant with me. He was like the third party. And when my mom went to the hospital to have me, when her water broke, he was playing Monopoly with them. And so he like was in our house taking care of me when I was an infant. He was like my third parent. Oh my gosh, these are my parents, guys. So fabulous 70s photo. My Guncle is on the left. My dad is the bearded guy on the right. And my mom is in the middle of everything, just as she always had to be, IRL. But how close they always were. All three of them were always together. And
I love your mom's top. There, it just needs to be a little bit longer, and that would have been a perfect caftan fabric.
I know, don't you think? And my dad's shirt also would have been a perfect caftan fabric because
we may have to start a line after this of 70s fashion. Yeah,
like 70s parent caftan would be. My dad's ties from that era are all like these 70s like cars and like minivans and shit.
Oh my God, I love it. And wide enough almost to be a caftan, probably.
He probably just could have worn that to work. And then it was like a tie. It was a fig leaf. It was like a thing. Right? But my uncle, my uncle took care of me when I was a baby. So he was like my second dad, and his home was like one of my safe places in the world. And he would teach us things like make ice cream drinks, like grasshoppers and golden Cadillacs, which I actually made today, like in his honor. So cheers. Oh. Right. And I have like a fancy new Palm Springs looking martini shaker just for Steven's book and for my gunkle. So here's to gunkles everywhere. Cheers. And to your new book. May it be on the bestseller list forever and ever. Right? Guys, you got it pre-order.
We'll drink to that. We'll drink to that. Well, I was so grateful for I mean, I do feel for anyone who had a novel, and I live with a writer who had his debut novel come out last summer during the height of the pandemic. So the fact that you have banded together to help writers is just, it's so great, because I do feel for anybody who had a book come out last year, and I miss being in bookstores so badly to browse, and that's often how we discover new writers and new books. So I'm grateful that bookstores are open and that so many have survived, and not only that, are thriving. But it's been a year to have to figure out how to operate an entirely new model, both for writers and booksellers.
So much so. I know we have Skylark watching us today, which is so great. And I think there are a couple of other booksellers on. So hello, booksellers. We love you so much. We miss you. Readers, we can't wait to get back out and connect with you in person. And I'm going to, when I do that, because I have a book coming out later this year, I'm going to wear a GoPro on my shoulder like an angel and stream it all to the Blaze, so that you guys don't actually have to leave and travel to Wichita unless you really want to, or Columbia, Missouri, where I'm going to both places to see me. So, but if you're there, you should come. What is the book for you? Actually, wait, I wanted to talk about the book more, because I love it.
Yes, let's not move on too quickly. I'm drinking what is called a Rose Kennedy, which is a vodka soda splash of cranberry, but it sort of ties in back to the editor a little bit, which had Jackie Onassis as a character. And so this is sort of like the bridge between the editor and the Gunkel, the new book.
Well, I will drink to the good. This can be your Gunkel drink. And guys, on the Blaze Facebook page and Twitter and Insta, you'll see I put the golden Cadillac recipe on there. And I have to tell you, it's just like you're supposed to sip it decorously during an interview. It's really damn good. I'm glad I have this whole shaker here. I'm going to be out by 6 p.m. Good cause, it's super good. But yes, so I would love to hear let's talk more about the book to introduce readers, because they probably haven't had a chance to read it yet, as I have. But tell us what the plot of this is. It's so moving to me and so heartwarming, and grounds all of your delicious comedy and banter and wit in something that is really quite serious, I think.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, I've had this longstanding fascination with Auntie Mame. And so I sort of had set out with the idea of writing a light comedic novel, that this is something that sort of had fallen away. They were sort of, in fashion in the sort of mid-century of last year. But the light comedic novel is not something that gets a lot of attention nowadays. And so that's where, the jumping off point was. So I had Patrick O'Hara, who is the titular Gunkel, is a former television star. Yeah.
All right. Well done, you. Well done. Right. I know. Yes, that was great. Okay.
He's a former television star who's sort of all but retired early to Palm Springs, California, when he's tasked with taking in his niece and nephew for the summer after an unexpected family tragedy, which is the death of their mother. And he has been grieving his own wounds, the death of his boyfriend years prior, which he never sort of recovered from. So he's already at a point where he's sort of given up on life. And the three of them find each other, and their summer together brings about a season of healing for all three. My light comedic novel, though, took on a much more serious turn when I sat down to write in this over the summer of 2018, one of my best friends from college passed away to a very aggressive form of breast cancer, leaving behind a 6-year-old son. And so suddenly what I thought would be a novel of hijinks and MAME-like adventure was suddenly grounded in this much more realistic way for me, as I was imagining grief in children and what that really would look like. You know, Auntie Mame sent her young nephew away to boarding school for the summer, but you know, I was suddenly thinking realistically, like, what would a child remember of his mother at 6 years old? What room would there be for other people to come in and remind these kids how much they were loved and keep her alive for them? And so the book took a slightly more serious tone than perhaps I intended. It is an exploration of grief. I hope it's still very funny. I think it's funny still. And I think it's fun to read, but I didn't want to short shrift the very real emotional heart of this story.
I think that's what makes it so magical, actually. It's like this wonderful like combination, like a Neapolitan ice cream or something with a flavor you might not necessarily expect, because you do comedy so well. And it is a very funny book. Like the dialogue is fantastic. Patrick trying to communicate with Maisie and Grant, his niece and nephew, are like, there are misunderstandings between them because they're children and he is like a gay TV star living in Palm Springs. Like they have somewhat different lifestyles. So like them trying to find that common footing is actually hilarious. And Patrick is very funny. But I think the lightning rod that gets sunk down into the book is that lightning rod about grief. And I am not surprised, although I am very sorry to hear about your friend. And I lost my mom to the same disease. So I know, you know, what
it's awful.
I know what it feels like to be like, wait, where did you go? You know, it is awful. But the grief in the book is palpable and it's balanced by the humor, and the humor is also balanced by the grief. So it's not just, when I was first reading, I'm like, oh, this could be like a Doris Day movie. Like I wasn't thinking about Auntie Mame. I was thinking about like Doris Day or like Steve Martin inheriting kids, hilarious hijinks ensue. Like that would be a great movie. It'd be a great series. It would be a really funny book. But like this is more. It has a reverberation that really sticks with the reader because you were brave enough to explore that grief as well. So I give you kudos on that.
Yeah, but isn't that the way sort of life is? You know, well, first of all, it's the way writing is. We write to understand something usually that we're going through. And so, you know, I'm not surprised the book took that turn. But also, you know, I couldn't help but think, you know, I'm not the first one to say comedy and tragedy are two sides of the same coin. You know, that's been around as long as writing has. But that really is the way that humor, particularly in life's darkest moments, has had a real way of pulling us through. And it's not, you know, it would be easy to write a scene of, you know, a character just sort of crying or sobbing, but expressing that same grief through a cutting remark or through a humorous situation, I think is often much more realistic, because grief sort of seeps into the fabric of our, you know, daily lives. And then it's not just like, oh, we go and we cry for a while and it's gone. Like life goes on, and humor sometimes is the best coping mechanism just to get up in the morning.
And that rub, like the friction, they like sort of rub up against each other. Sometimes that zone is actually really funny. Like I remember, like after my dad passed, I had a dear new friend whose dad passed the same summer, and we sort of bonded over like vodka martinis after our writing workshop, and we were like the bereavement club. And what we talked about all the time was like how funny grief was, and we knew that people who hadn't experienced the loss would be able to understand it. But we would tell each other these stories about like how she had made this whole tray of pot brownies for her dad when he was going through chemo, and he didn't know that they had pot in them because she was going to surprise them. And then ate half of them, and then their family lab ate the other half. So her dad and the dog were like stoned for like a week. You know, we were like not laughing at this, but it's hard to otherwise, right? And I think that's one of the things the Gunkel does well, is to inhabit that zone of like life does go on, and humor goes on, and absurdity goes on, and that is a really good vehicle for expressing a lot of the way grief comes out sideways, I think.
Yeah.
Really beautiful.
Yeah. It's and it's interesting to write humor. And I know you've had some experience with this as well, but particularly as a novelist, the lag time between, I could be sitting there going, oh, I've come up with a really great joke. And then, I look around and realize, oh, it's going to be probably 3 years before anybody reads this and laughs. Like, it's the longest lag time between telling a joke and getting a response to it. And then on top of that, I'm not peering over everyone's shoulder reading the book, so I can't be like, what made you laugh? But my hope is that it is still very funny, and because you hope that your book has a shelf life too, that changes the type of comedy as well. You want it to be very grounded in something real. You don't want it topical, because then it's very quickly not funny anymore. But if you really ground humor in who the characters are and the situations that they're going through, I think it's much more impactful, and hopefully has a shelf life like we hope all our books do.
So anybody who's interested in grieving, or anybody who's interested in families, anybody who's interested in families that you make as opposed to families that you inherit or that you're born to, or both, or interested in Palm Springs or TV and movies. And one of the things that I loved about the book was I was like, this is brave. I don't think you're a TV star, and if I miss something, or a movie star, I'm sorry. But how did you do the research for that part of the book? Because Patrick, re-enters his industry world, and I have such trepidation thinking about, writing about the industry.
Yeah, we we as writers, we're probably on the furthest outskirt, that moon that's furthest orbits the planet.
Yeah, we're like Pluto.
Of entertainment. Yeah, we're
Pluto. We are Pluto or Uranus.
In that we have agents and we are tangentially in the entertainment world, but on the totem pole we are now I'm just mixing all kinds of metaphors now.
Yeah, it's good. We are planet.
Just blame Rose Kennedy.
I blame her for everything, honestly. Yeah. It's very handy because she's not around to tell me, don't do that. But yeah, we're sort of in the entertainment industry, sort of. We provide
right? That's the jumping off point. But obviously being a TV star is much more glamorous than what we do, and it also probably pays a lot better than what we do. But I've lived in Los Angeles for a long time. I've been fortunate enough to have friends who have worked in the industry. In fact, next week for my launch event, Michael Urie is joining me in conversation. He's been on Ugly Betty and Younger, and had his own sitcom for a while called Partners. And then also next week, Angela Kinsey from The Office is joining me in conversation. So, I've definitely talked to people about this, but for me, it's like, I know, it's not hard to extrapolate there. Patrick has sort of wanted to leave this behind because he didn't feel funny anymore. He was hurt and grieving and didn't feel like not acknowledging that anymore or pushing it aside in order to perform for other people. And, we've had days like that when we were just like, I can't write today. I just can't do the job. And so there's not everything was such a stretch. He has a complicated relationship with his agent, to put it mildly. Fortunately, my agent is a delight, and I love him, and he's been such a joy in my life. But there's no drama in that. So, sometimes we have to invent situations.
I'm like, oh, is your agent watching? Did you watch it? Is your agent's watching? We know your editor is fantastic, Sally Kim. We love her. I stalk her on Instagram also. But who's your agent? Sorry, I shouldn't ask that on a writing show. All the writers are like writing this down.
Writing down. I know. His name's Rob Weisbach, and he was an editor for years in New York, and then has sort of switched over to the agenting side. But everyone rolls their eyes when someone thanks their agent when they win an Oscar or something, but they're like, now I get it. Like, I get it. It's such a crucial relationship.
It's like the right arm of, like, my agent is like my right arm. I've had a lot of different editors now. I'm in the same house for this latest book as for the last book, and I love my editor to death. I hope I live with her forever and ever. But my agent, I always say I would follow her to a yurt if she gave up agenting, and I would sit outside the yurt and I'd be like, you're still my agent, so get online and sell things. But we've been together for almost 20 years, and that's longer than all my relationships. We're like the Muppet guys in the balcony by this time. just crabby old, like whatever. Right?
By
So
the way, that is my dream. Can we do that? Can we just promise to be that in the future? Let's just buy a balcony somewhere. We'll sit up there and just comment on everybody as they pass by. That's like my dream.
absolutely, I'm just gonna have my drink and some vodka glasses and be like, "Did you see Becky look at her butt?" Like that's basically gonna be me. I'll be 90. I'm like, Becky, look at her butt. It's so big. So, tell us about the caftans. And by the way, may I suggest that because you have a fabulous caftan on your cover, you need this caftan. You need to dress like your book and get a green caftan to wear to all your events. Go on Etsy. You're welcome. No?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I need to make I need to buy myself a sewing machine and have some fun. Do you know Emma Straub has done that with her book? Have you seen her do that? She's made like matching dresses to go with her book covers. And I mean, that is a level that I aspire to one day.
It's super effective. Actually, we could start this on your IG, right? So I'm going to dare everybody out there who has a caftan, take a selfie, send it to Steven on his Insta, or post it on your own and tag him, because there was a hashtag on Instagram, dress like a book, for a while. And I know this because when my last book came out, there was a woman with a red dress on the cover. And then one of the editors at Harper put on a red dress and was holding a martini and posted this photo, and it was exactly like my book cover, and I was so impressed. But I feel like the Gunkel lends itself beautifully to that.
It really does. Well, one I want to say, Mary O'Malley, who's a wonderful virtual bookseller at Skylark,
she's one of ours. She's a blazer.
Yes, she did. She created the cover of the Gunkel with herself in a caftan and maybe her grandkids or some kids she like, just a beautiful job. Like to the entire Bookstagram community, you do not know like how much it means to us that you read our books, you take the time to write the reviews, and then you curate these incredible images. Some of them are so beautiful, and it's like I get emotional talking about it because writing it can feel like such a solitary job sometimes, and you really think like there are days when you think I am in this all by myself and no one else will understand, and then your book gets out in the world and people embrace it and you're part of this larger community, and it's so lovely to see. So caftan selfies, absolutely. Tag me. I want to see them. I'm going to be doing a partnership with a caftan company. So follow me on Instagram at Mr. Steven Rowley. Soon I'm going to I don't have it today, but I will have it soon. I think a discount code and stuff like that for my favorite caftan company, Kaftco. You can also follow them, Kaftko. Kaftco.
Oh, I am so in. I am
Instagram.
So in.
And this is one of theirs. I'm like, this is the home shopping channel now, but I just like, it was like the hair club for men, which I should have joined because I don't, but I was a client long before I had this partnership. So.
Oh my God, that is so fantastic. I want to buy like a gold or a silver lame caftan and wear it around, right? It's so good. Like my sister wears caftans all the time. She's so glamorous. I wear yoga pants, but it's time to level up. Like you have inspired me.
Listen, exactly. But a comfort, like the pandemic, our quarantining at home may be coming to an end, thanks to vaccines and whatnot, but there's certain things we can't leave behind. One, right? Like I want to stay connected with people throughout the country, like friends, like I'm so happy to be here with you. Two, leisure wear. Let's not go back to hard clothes. Like
hard pants.
Can we just wear this forever?
No, boycott hard pants. I know all the like jeans manufacturers in the world are like clutching their heads, but I have these long conversations out with other dog moms on my blog where I'm just like, we have to put on hard pants. How are we going to do that? And we're like, well, we'll put on one pair and stretch them out by wearing them for 5 days. And one pair of hard pants. But otherwise, like, I agree. Like, what are the things that you want to take with you into the post-pandemic future? And what are the things you want to leave behind in addition to caftans? You want to bring caftans, bring readers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting so much that a lot of the world has suddenly been living a writer lifestyle this past year. Like we have long been, toiling away at home or, working remotely. Should this be my fourth cup of coffee or my first glass of wine? Like, all these sort of daily debates that suddenly everyone working at home has been forced to, do I need to wear pants today? Probably not. Forced into these. I would love flex time to be something that moves forward for so many we talk about this book about families and kids and stuff like that, the world is just so much better when we give each other a little more freedom, I think. If you're working at home, you don't have to keep traditional hours necessarily, particularly, you can answer email in the evening if that's what it takes to spend a little time with your kids during the day. If people can do some work from home, particularly, I think I lived in Los Angeles forever. Boston's the same way. Traffic is awful.
Oh my God.
Let's divide people up and let everyone stay home, work from home one day a week. It would alleviate traffic off it would make all of our lives so much better.
It would be so nice. So yeah, the writer life has actually lent itself well to the pandemic. Like during the first month of the pandemic, I had started The Blaze with Caroline Levitt and all these fabulous people we're working with, but sort of by accident. And I didn't understand how busy I was going to be. I just felt very indignant about the fact that my friends' book tours were canceled. Because I was like, they're books, they're beautiful books.
Yeah.
But I suddenly had like an adult lifestyle that I'd never had before, where I was like, okay, I have to be at my desk by this time. I have to take this meeting. I have to take this call. Like, I can't just like do my own schedule. Everybody else was in my writer life. Like they were all dressed for shit. Like everybody looked awful. Like they had really weird clothes combinations on and no makeup. And they were like, where's our structure? And I was like, welcome to writer world. And they're like, we have to work all the time. And yet none of the time. And I'm like, welcome to writer world. It gets weird here, but it's kind of nice. And I feel like the writers especially are renegotiating socializing, I think, in a way, right? So I've had these discussions with people about like, I miss book events. I will run over an old lady with a Humvee to get to a microphone. Like I will be there with my GoPro. But casual socializing, tyranny or not tyranny? Discuss. Hi, I'm going to be in your neighborhood. Let's have a cup of coffee. You're like, fuck, no, I love you. But no, like, are you finding that to be a thing that you want to get back to or no?
Yeah, I've never been a fan of the drop by. I don't want people knocking on my door or like a text like, hey, you want to grab coffee in 10 minutes? I need to mentally prepare, and after this year now more than ever, I need to put myself in the headspace. But that's always been tough as a writer because when we are in it, we are so in it. I mean, it's a 50-50 because there's a chance like it's not going well that day. And you're like, yes, get me out of the house. Get me away from the computer screen. But if you're in it, like you can't just stop because you don't know when it's going to come back. So it's like, you can't just stop at 5 o'clock. So not into the drop by, but I do miss it. I don't miss like I think I'm going to have a little agita the first time I go to like a big party or something. Like I'm not in a race to get back to the club, but like a dinner party with close friends, like I yearn for that. Like just 6 people, and well, you and I obviously, so we only 4 more slots here, but
everybody apply the best.
Everybody apply now at a Mighty Blaze.
Yep.
I really do yearn for that kind of connection. We really aren't, despite being writers, we're really not built to be solitary creatures. It's just not, it's not healthy. And so, it's so hard, everybody's been, sort of COVID policing and stuff like that. And I get it to a certain degree, but I also want to give people some forgiveness too, because it's like, people aren't built to be alone. And I'm lucky I live with, I'm married now. I live with somebody, we had a dog, our dog just passed away in March, but, through the entire quarantine, like we were, we had a little pack, and I can't imagine, like particularly in New York or big cities, small apartments and stuck in their 4 walls. I have to imagine it's terrible.
It would be hard. I mean, I live by myself, and when the pandemic started, I had no dog. Now I have a dog, and when you have a dog, the dog is a connector. You go outside, especially I don't know in Palm Springs if you have that neighborhood, but in a big eastern city, you go outside, and there are days when I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm running lines in my head, or I have 5 minutes before the next Zoom call, and people are like, hi, and they come over with the dogs. I'm like, not now, Henry, not now, Henry. Yeah. Mommy's got to work. So I'm like the mean elf in Christmas Story. I'm like, I'll shut your eye out, dog. Come on. But yeah, I feel as though without the Blaze, I would have sunk, honestly, without
Yeah.
the readers and the viewers, without my friends who did this with me, without volunteers who just came to us and became friends and like literally a family for me. It would have been, I had my worst day of the pandemic, the day that I realized it was probably not going to be over by June 2020, as I had decided, like Donald Trump. It was just going to be over and it was going to be beautiful. And I was like, okay, this is an adventure and it'll be done. Somebody was like, it's going to be 18 months. And I realized that she was right. And I thought, I cannot last for 18 months alone in my apartment. And what I found was that like the neighborhood stepped up, you know, my friends stepped up, we all created something together. But oh my God, I don't know if you don't have that support system or that luck or your family at home. Oh my God, it would have been really hard. But yeah, I mean, for writers, it also is a mixed bag because I love dinner. I will come to your dinner party. I will bring booze. I will bring gougere. You know, really fattening stuff like appetizers, but I don't like being disturbed during the day. And I feel like such a Grinch about it. And people I genuinely love are like, I'm in your neighborhood. I'm like, I didn't see that, you know, because you're trying, it's like being in hypnosis. And once it's broken, you're like, is that ever going to come back? Right. So don't drive by, make plans, make plans.
I think like, I feel for writers who are like married to high-powered attorneys and suddenly their partner was at home working and shouting on conference calls all day and negotiating contract. And I'd be like, oh my God, shut up, shut up, shut up. Like this is where it was a joy to live with another writer, which, you know, has its challenges at times too, but at least it's quiet. But I'm also like very interested to imagine the books that, you know, may or may not come out of this year, this experience. But I was having this conversation with someone who was like, oh, you've already written your pandemic book. And it was just coincidentally, you know, I had written about a character who had self-isolated in the desert because he didn't want to be around other people. And so I was, and this was about him finding connection and his path back. And so I was like, oh yeah, good. It takes that pressure off. I've got.
Right, your book is a primer. It's like it actually was precognitive. So I knew we had audience questions.
Oh, precog, yeah, because you can't predict. You know, these things take years. You can never predict when your book is coming out. You never. You have no control over that. So
none. I mean, this is why I tell writers not to write to the market because the market will shift by the time your book gets to the market. And you'll be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have written about vampires because that was so like 2005 or whatever. I could unpack questions for you all day long. I haven't been watching the clock. Like we're going to talk for 8 hours. But we have audience questions. One first from Christina, who I love. Hi, Christina. What have you currently been reading? And any future releases you're excited about?
Yeah, well, all kinds of stuff. You know, I just finished The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth because she's joining me in conversation next week. Hit the New York Times list for her. So happy. And it's great. It's great. But yeah, I can't wait. You know this, the weeks leading up to a book launch can be some of the busiest time. And I can't wait. I've got a stack, you know, a to be read stack. I was at the a bookstore for the first time in person the other day, and, oh God, it was so emotional. But you know, just to browse, you know, and buying online is great, but it's hard to discover something if you don't know you're sort of going in to look for it. So I just you know, and I just sort of impulse bought the new Ishiguro Clara and the Sun, I think.
I so want to read that.
Yeah, and there's a new book. God, I wish I should just go run and grab it, but that I'm very excited to read. Family drama. I'm very into big family dramas. I'm one of 4 siblings, so I just finished Claire Lombardo's most fun we ever had. The most fun we ever had. About 4 sisters, and I love anything like big sprawling family drama. It's like catnip for me.
Oh, I'm going to make one recommendation, and I see Anissa has a question, but the recommendation is Alyssa Friedman's Last Summer at the Golden Hotel. Huge
okay, great
drama, but it's also like Mrs. Maisel had a baby with Dirty Dancing. It's all about that Catskills culture and like these 2 Jewish families.
You know, I love me some mid-century.
So I know you do. I should have worn my Mrs. Maisel outfit, which I have. P.S. So that can be for our dinner party. We can have
great
dinner party. You wear the caftan. I'll wear my Mrs. Maisel. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Too much like fanboying. Anissa had a great question. Were you a reader as a child, and did that have an impact on you becoming a writer?
Yes, I was absolutely a reader as a child. I always credit two things with my career today. One, I had access to an excellent public school system, and so I, always fund our school. I don't have any children. I will pay property taxes gladly because I believe in schools being funded. Two, I had a public library card. And I was coming from a big library family. We believed in library and library programming, and I was dropped off at the library a lot, and that was a babysitter at times in a great way. There's no better babysitter than the library. So I was a big reader as a kid, and I loved choose your own adventure books.
Yes.
And like Encyclopedia Brown was a series of books about a boy detective. And then you could flip to the back. You tried to solve the case yourself, and then you would flip to the back and see if you were right. And I love, even as a kid, just trying to figure out how a story worked, or how to make a good story, or, in the choose your own adventure, sometimes you turn to a page and be like, well, that was the wrong choice. It ended. And I'd be like, oh, okay, I need to make a better storytelling choice.
No, I don't know. I mean, I talk about this with my friends who are novelists all the time. I was talking about it with one of our producers about how we should do the literary agent, the path to publication, choose your own adventure. 3 agents want your book. Which one do you go with? If you go with this one, turn to page 37. If you go with that one, if you turn them all down and go out on your own, I mean, you could do this whole thing, right? Or if nobody wants your book, do you go to your agent's house with a flamethrower?
It's so true, though, because there's always so much pressure to make the right choice. You really, and we do that to ourselves, but we're reality is always kinder. If you just give yourself a moment, you can do this. You can make a choice that's right for you. So anyway, fascinating idea.
Do you think that helped you plot your books to
I think so.
Encyclopedia and Choose Your Own Adventure are both very plot tools. They're teaching you tools from Writer Toolbox, right?
Yeah, I think I really do think that those were very formative. Although I don't think of myself as a huge plot writer first. I don't overly outline. I'm not exactly a pantser, as they say, but I like the it was described to me as the sort of headlamp theory, that I know what's going to happen as far ahead as you could see that's lit from the car's headlights. So that what's around the corner, I like to leave a little room for surprise. Otherwise, it's hard to sit down in the seat each day. It feels like a factory assembly, like work. And I like sitting down to write when I have room to surprise myself, because then it becomes more exciting.
So this makes total sense, because I like to be in the factory and know what I'm going to do. And that is because I wear hard pants and you wear a caftan, and you free flowing, and I'm suck that shit in, man. I need Spanx and hard pants. I need to be sucked into my outline and know what I'm going to do. So, but one of the reasons I love and feel so privileged to talk to writers every Friday and writers I love and admire, is that you learn there's no right or wrong way to do this, that there are just infinite ways, and not
there
just
are as many ways as there are writers.
Right? Exactly. And now we know your secret sauce. Wait, what do you wear when you write? Very important question.
Oh, that's a good question. Probably not something much different than this, but yeah, it's also in Palm Springs, California, it can be 115 degrees in the summertime. So yeah,
it's a lot.
Shorts and t-shirts, lots.
Okay, so we have a question from Mark. Hi, Mark. Humor is so hard to do. How do you know if something is really funny as you write without an audience there to tell you? That is a great question.
Yeah, it's all instinct. And some days I'm writing just to amuse myself. I have readers that I trust, but and my agent pushes me for a better punchline if something's not working. But it really is, you have to have a great confidence, and try not to pull punches as you write. I loved the relationship between Patrick and the children in this, because he talks to them like adults, and I would have to be like, all right, is this too harsh? Is this too mean a thing to say to a child? And then I think, well, it's not mean-spirited. It's just that he doesn't have the language and the tools to talk to children the way we're used to hearing them spoken about. So, and if I started to soften that, it wouldn't be as funny. So you kind of just have to trust your instincts at times. But I always want to know I wish I could hear the laughter. I wish I could hear the laughter.
Oh my God. I will read you. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, sometimes, in an ebook, you can see like passages people have underlined or, highlighted or whatnot. I would love to just be able to just scroll through and hear where the laughter was. But,
Oh my God, I'm going to read you mine. I'm going to read you mine, actually, because I dog-eared the page. I love when I come to a line in a book that makes me laugh like a lunatic, even though I'm like, I wonder if the author actually intended this or not. But in my novel workshop, too, we do this thing called favorite line poll. So at the end of every workshop, we're like, what was your favorite line in the submission? And like, this is my favorite line so far, although I have some that are very serious about grief, or like you have this beautiful writing in here, but there was this line I thought was so funny. And it speaks directly to what you're talking to with Patrick's relationship with the kids. So he's talking about like his friend who died, like her life in New York. And instead of talking about her, he's talking about like his life in New York with the kids. Or he was a waiter, and he says, I don't know, I wasn't cut out for it. One night I accidentally set a woman on fire. Your mom said I came home every night smelling of lamb. You set a woman on fire? The look of disbelief on Maisie's face was comical. Accidentally? Did she burn to a crisp? That was my line. The little boy in this book has a lisp, but it's so cute. You don't overdo, by the way, but like, I love the idea of somebody being burned to a crisp, and he was so burned to a crisp, and it's spelled KWISP. So I read that like 50 times, and that is a line that made me laugh out loud that I will return to when the book is over. When I'm having a bad day, I'm going to open that book and be like, did she burn to a crisp? And I'm going to feel better.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's also, a character, he should be there for somebody else. But, his first instinct still is to talk about himself, and and humor can come from that too. And it's watching him learn to put others first instead of just himself. It's, a real joy to see a character mature in that way.
Mm-hmm. And he does, at the same time, I have to say, the disparity between what he thinks is appropriate to tell children and then like what is actually appropriate to tell children is one of the running jokes of the book that really never gets old for me. I'm like, surely he will know by now not to say that thing. And then you're like, oh my God, you said the thing about the dildo. Do not do that. Do not do that. So it's just like, but there's a great scene in here with a bidet. That's not, not called a bidet. It's called a
washlet.
A washlet. I was going to say a swishlet, which
well, that would be a great. I mean, yeah. If we get tired of our caftan business, we could open a swishlet.
Swishlet. If you get burned to
like a Swiss line of bidet.
It totally does. Or a drink, but no, maybe not a drink. No.
Yeah, but I mean, that was like acquiesce to it because I don't find, I just think toilet humor is cheap sometimes, but kids obviously love toilet humor. So I was like, how can I address that? And it was with a $20,000 Japanese toilet that the kids don't quite know how to use. But in researching that, by the way, anybody in the NSA who's following our Google search history or whatever, like the internet really did think I was a toilet fetishist for a while because every suggested ad was something toilet related after I had done the research on expensive Japanese toilets.
Steven, it's research. So do you actually have one of these now? Do you have one of these like water pick /
No, but I have a marketing partnership with a caftan company. I really think that this should be the next marketing partnership.
And what would make for better Instagram and TikTok stories than that?
There you go.
Thing. Okay. All right. So I have to let you go. We're almost coming up on an hour. Unbelievable.
No, how did that pass?
I know. It's time to go to the dinner party. So bye, everybody. But before I let you go, what would you like to say to your readers who are waiting with such great anticipation for The Guncle to come out next week?
I'm so grateful for all of you who have followed me on this journey. I got such joy the other day. Someone posted on Instagram a warning: do not read The Guncle in public, on public transport, because you will laugh out loud and people will look at you like you're crazy. And that was such a lovely bookend to my first novel, Lily and the Octopus, where I got so many people who reached out to me and said, why didn't you tell me not to read this in public? Because I sobbed so hard. And I just think it's just like a lovely bookend. And the readers who have followed me who have laughed and cried with me, your support means so much. And to the extent that I get to do what I do, it's it's because of readers, and it just means so much.
We love you, readers, and please don't forget, go out and buy. You can pre-order, and here's a secret that nobody told me until I've been doing this for 20 years. Just now I learned that if you pre-order, all those pre-orders count on the first day a book is out. So if you pre-order, you can push an author up onto the list by pre-ordering. Did you know this?
It's so important. And the publisher determines the print run sometimes based on pre-orders and stuff like that. It really is a great way to support authors. Also, if you are in a position and are able to support independent bookstores, that is a great way to do it. I have on my website, stevenrowley.com, and on my Instagram at Mr. Steven Rowley. I've got the tour sites. The independent bookstores I'm doing events with will all have signed copies. So you can order from there if you want a signed copy. But we're so grateful for our independent bookstores, and they've had a tough year, and we need them. They're such the hearts of our communities, and they're going to start bringing programming back, and we want them not only to survive, but to thrive. So if you're in a position to order from an independent bookstore, it's such a joy.
Please do, like Tinkerbell, you can clap your hands and keep the bookstores alive, but you have to pre-order from the indie bookstore. So please consider doing that. Sorry, guys, didn't intend to do a commercial, but it is so vitally important, right? And you will love this book, and you have to buy this book. You have to buy it for your summer read, and then buy it for Gunkle Day in August.
In August.
Every day is Gunkle Day. So anybody who ever had a Gunkle who stepped in and who you loved, buy it in honor of your Gunkle. I'm going to go buy 5 copies from my Uncle Dan and grave with a golden Cadillac. So,
Uncle Dan. I'm going to learn how to make a golden Cadillac in Uncle Dan's honor. I'm going for the recipe. So thank you. We could talk for days, literally.
We can tell you. Stay on after we go off, and we'll talk. All right, we're going to chat in the green room. Bye, guys. Send in your caftan. Send in your caftan selfies. Bye.